Yo, what is going on, guys? Brandon here. Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. Can you believe it's almost April? I feel like I was just saying this about February. This is absolutely incredible. Let's look at your market outlook for today, what's happening. Just give you a quick rundown and try to make these a little bit shorter so you can kind of get in, get out, make separate videos about other topics. Tend to go off in rants, but the algorithm hates truth. Absolutely hates truth. So let's dive into this, see exactly what's going on. But really the story of the day is just investor confusion and in everyone, whether it's endowments, sovereigns, the Fed, governments, and retail investors, doesn't matter. It's just a confusing time. So it's just confusion across the board, and people really have no idea what's going on. This is why you see flight to all different assets. This is why you see Bitcoin pumping and gold and silver, treasuries moving all over the place, oil going up and down. This is a world that we usually don't see this happen. So hold on one second. And it's a world where you really don't see this happening. So this is why we're seeing flight all over the place and confusion, really everywhere. So the United States 10-year Treasury, we talk about the trifecta, the big three, the 10-year Treasury, the DXY, which is the dollar relative strength, and the oil. Those are the big three that really are the dog that wags the tail and shows you what's going on in the world. Remember, these are credit events, credit seizing up. Oh wait, credit seizing up. 2019, credit seizing up, and liquidity needing to be pumped into the system. This is what's going to happen again. This is what the Fed is trying to stave off right now as well. Greg Foss just talked about this in the last day or so. Talked about Powell's remarks last week about how he kept using the word credit. He wasn't even talking about inflation, really. He used the word credit 10 times, and he just noted, hey, this is pretty remarkable that he's constantly using it's showing you subliminally, it's showing you what he's thinking about, right? They're thinking about credit events and things locking up, and the system locking up, credit cards not working and gas not coming out of the pump. So these are things to be extremely wary of and understand where we're at in this cycle. We're at the end of this dollar experiment, the dollar standard. The dollar is a world reserve currency, so we have to be very careful because we're at the end of the fiat life cycle. This is where this monetary transition is coming in. This is why BRICS is being talked about so much. This is why you have all these countries, the death of the dollar standards, Mike Maloney has put it for 14 years, is just one nail after the other in the coffin. Just almost 10 a day. It used to be like 10 a year, one a year, 10, 12 years ago. Now it's 10 a day, nails in the coffin. So this is process speeding up. There's a lot of saber rattling going on. At the end of the day, this is why we constantly talk about getting resilient. We can see all kinds of insane things going on in the world, and one, just because of media and 24-hour news cycle and social media at our hands, but be prepared for crying out loud. Get some food storage, get some energy, water, food, guns, ammo, security. Start figuring it out, because the more independent, the more resilient we are, the better we can handle these situations, and the more prepared we are, guess what? The people around us can see that and sense that, and trouble ain't going to find you as easily. That's how life works, right? God works through and to us, to and through us. It's God's a rewards-based God, not a needs-based God. Just because you need something in life doesn't mean you get it. God works to and through us. He's a rewards-based God. So we have to take action. We have to understand there's a higher power bigger than us, and we also have to take action. Those two things combined are what give us success in life. So Bitcoin, gold, and silver as well, getting your money out of the system. Remember, this is not financial advice. This is freedom advice. So the 10-year, again, been bouncing all over. We've been watching this. You can see right here, this action here the last few months, just bouncing all over. People have no idea what's going on. And this is why Bitcoin is the best bet. This is why Bitcoin is the safest bet. This is why we're here. The world that we're going to live in Bitcoin, where AI, you can see ChatGPT already talking about a world where it only accepts Bitcoin. Bitcoin is only recognized by AI, because Bitcoin is the perfect translation between time, and that's we end our every video ironically, right, with, well, not ironically, I do it purposely, because Bitcoin is time and time is Bitcoin. It's the perfect trade for one another, the only two finite assets we have. So of course AI, that's going to take over life in a good way, not in a bad way. We have to be very careful. We have to be diligent. However, AI is going to complement everything we're doing in life, and it's going to be, like computers, but better, and help us and aid us. And there's a part of me that thinks that in 10, 20 years, things are going to be so cheap and abundant that we won't even really have a lot of uses for money in a way. Things will be so cheap and abundant that people won't even be worrying about making money because things will just be at your disposal. Uranium and thorium and all these things that we're starting. The average person, starting to learn more about these things and understand why. Why are we using these ridiculous renewable things and oil, all these things when we have uranium, we have nuclear, we have fission, we've got thorium, we've got these things that could last for decades, hundreds of years, and give everyone cheap and abundant energy. So that toothpaste is coming out of the tube, and that's only going to speed up as the younger generation start to take over, especially in political areas. So the 10-year, right now we're watching things like this, the trifecta, to see what's going on. You could look at the MOVE index and the volatility index. The MOVE index, I believe, is the volatility of the bond market. So there's some other indexes you can look at too, just to kind of give you, a little tip from Greg Frost and Dr. Jeff Ross, some tips to if you want to dive deeper into stuff. But again, 3.5 on the 10-year yield. Again, long term, I expect that to just keep coming down. The financial repression, they got to keep printing. Again, could it go up in the interim? Yeah, it could. The free market can overwhelm things and go up, but they're going to come in with such massive buying when the markets lock up because of higher rates, which they can't go much higher because they're already bankrupting banks. They are going to bankrupt themselves, the Fed. They're going to bankrupt the country because the interest payment can't be made on higher and higher rates. And that all the higher and higher rates do is pull deposits out of the market, and then those people go look for other yield or higher yield in other areas because the rates keep going up and they're not getting them at their bank. So they can't go much longer. So over the long term, over the next year or two, in the coming years, this decade, going forward, they have to commit financial repression. They have to squeeze the average person with inflation and some taxation and print more currency, buying bonds, buying assets, etc. So that's the 10-year. We have the DXY obviously is at 102. We're really getting to some not critical areas, but we're really seeing just I don't know if I call it a change. People are talking about liquidity being dumped in the market, and QE. I tend to be in that camp too, and you're seeing it with the dollar. You're seeing it with the 10-year yield coming down, the dollar weakening. You're seeing that. You're seeing that just overall, the 10-year yield coming down a bunch, obviously over the last month, and the 10-year or the dollar weakening. So it looks like QE, smells like QE, quacks like QE, must be QE. So let's check out the oil though really quick here. So the oil's been climbing too, right? So oil's been climbing. So people are thinking like a little bit. You can see the sentiment of like, oh, okay, oil is coming up again. The economy might be doing well because we got the Fed backstopping things again, right? They were in this rate raising environment, but now they're talking on both sides of the mouth. They're like, well, we're raising rates, but we got a QE going on. We're going to backstop and bail things out. So now you kind of have this weird thing going on of like, okay, cool. This is great. People, we're good, guys. We're good long term. The dot plot, the projection of future rates is lower. So people are kind of like, okay, you know what? Maybe we've turned this corner. Fed's pivoting, maybe, quote unquote. And good times are here again. Risk on. Risk assets are going to do great. Bitcoin, equities, stocks, all that, they're going to do great. Bitcoin eventually, sooner than later, in the next year or two, I would imagine, as more bad things happen, people are going to realize that it is the least risky asset there is. It's going to be that, and that's the life we will all live. This is not. There's no point to even debating this anymore. This is beyond obvious. All it takes is an hour or two, a little bit of homework and doing due diligence of figuring out what the best, hardest, most secure asset there is. Again, throw your questions in here though. Please throw your questions in here, and I will do videos on the different things. People are wondering about Bitcoin or worrying about Bitcoin. We have some articles too, even that we're talk more about it and check out our blog or description of our blog. I go into depth about more of these things as well, not just the videos we do, but insurance companies having problems. So if people think insurance companies like, oh yeah, things are going to be great because my insurance company, guys, they might not even be there either. When you have bonds, rate raising environments, they're in bonds, they're in commercial real estate like crazy, insurance companies, and both those markets are getting absolutely destroyed right now. Commercial real estate's another thing really popping up on people's radar. This is why Bitcoin is the best bet long term, because there is no counterparty risk. Period. End of day. Gold and silver up again a little bit today, so bumping back up a little bit. Bitcoin's down though. The liquidity, it was down earlier, and now it's up again a bit. It was in the 26 handle, now it's up to 27 again and climbing. So the three liquidity plays, Bitcoin, gold, and silver, show you kind of the global liquidity, what's going on. But those have been bumping up, obviously a bunch. Bitcoin is up 40 to 80%, depending on what timetables you look over the last few months. Gold and silver up a bunch as well. So get prepared. Before we leave here, let's see if Bitcoin is running and what's happening with the network, mempool.space. So go check that out. Beautiful. Bitcoin's running as we would suspect. The hardest system, the most auditable system, the most decentralized system, unlike the banks, not running, can't audit it, central banks. I mean, what more do you need? Insurance companies starting to fail potentially because they're in bonds, garbage bonds, they're in reward-free risk, and they are in commercial real estate, 20% vacancies across the board. We're living in clown world, and all these old legacy systems and institutions, insurance and bonds and government and commercial real estate, and all these legacy institutions, they're starting to crumble. They're developing all these cracks, and this is why we have to start thinking forward, especially for retirement, especially for 10, 20, 50 years out. You've got to start thinking very differently. So please let me know your thoughts and comments on this. I appreciate you coming to my TED Talk, and let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you're doing to prepare. The biggest thing is getting prepared, independent, and resilient so we can thrive on the backside of what's coming. Gold and silver and Bitcoin, food, energy, water, guns and ammo, security, land, and community. Building community is the number one thing we can do here, especially in the people around you. Shake a rancher's hand, buy local, grass-fed meat, and understand and start doing that. That's what we're starting to do as well. We've done a lot of these other areas, and I'm starting to get into the area of meeting our ranchers and buying half a cow and things like that, grass-fed beef, and starting to buy even more local and supporting the people around us. The decentralization, because when we have decentralization, we then give ourselves more freedom and robustness, and we become more less fragile, more anti-fragile. So I appreciate you. Time is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is time. And question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. For if there is a God, surely he would appreciate that and study and learning over blindfolded fear. Please share this out. The algorithm hates truth, absolutely hates it. So please, the more we can do this and get truth and alternative narratives to the unproductive class, their megaphone being shouted down on you for decades, and the narrative from the media, the mainstream media, the faster we're going to educate each other, and the faster we're going to grow and learn and have a freer, more prosperous world. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.